Alright, this is the second part of doing the dragon scale cup that I started. So I've gotten scales up about halfway on the cup, and I stopped working on that so I can do a video to kind of show you what I've been doing here where the rhinestones are going to go. So I have been gluing these down and then cutting where I can actually see where it's raised up underneath of the paper where the electrical tape is. And I'm going to do one here in this spot right here so you can see what it is I'm doing. And then I'm going to stop the video and not torture you with watching anymore and having too much information in one video. So same process as before, putting the glue on the back of the paper. And I am lining it up with this right here, just like I do with the others where I would, actually I'm going to go ahead and put this one here to close off my loop. I didn't realize I didn't have one there. So the unfortunate issue with me doing the black electrical tape over black spray paint is it's hard for you to see that black electrical tape in the video. I can see it pretty clear, especially when I'm looking at this. I don't know if you can see it like I can, but I can actually see where the paper is raised in the center of the electrical where the electrical tape is going up underneath of the scale. So that's how I know I'm going to cut right along here and follow the electrical tape with my X-Acto knife. And then I'm going to save this piece instead of throwing it away, because this side will fit for when I need to cut over here for some in one of those spots. I like to reserve as much of my supplies as possible. Maybe I'm stingy, I don't know. But you can see where it was very simple. It's time consuming doing this so that I can get the effect that I'm getting on this cup, but I think it's going to be worth it. We'll let you guys decide that whenever we're done. Alright, we have all of the scales on now, and I've trimmed off the top of these already. And I've pulled the tape off of this side, and I still have the tape here and this tape here, just in case for those of you who are visual people, you want to actually see that. And I put my eyeball inside the cup so I wouldn't lose it, because I got like 4 different projects going on at once here. I do have to admit that I did cut the tape here, so there's still actually tape underneath of these because I pulled the tape off down here and then I kind of made a boo-boo on the bottom, so I'm going to have to repaint over top of that. Oops, sorry. It would help if I didn't schwack my camera when I was talking to you. Anyway, so I've got those done. I basically just laid each thing down and then used the X-Acto knife to cut it. I showed you guys that a little bit ago. And now, oh yeah, I gotta tell you what else I did. So I used a scrap piece of my white vinyl And I honestly just took my regular scissors instead of using the vinyl machine, which would have been taken longer than just cutting a circle. I found something that I had that was about the same size as this, and just drew a circle on it around that. But I actually have it a little bit smaller than that because I kind of want the colors to blend, and when you see what it is I'm going to do with this, you'll understand what I'm doing a little bit better. In all honesty, it might fail miserably because I have never done that before, or what I'm about to do before. This whole cup, the only thing I've done on this before is the scales, and the rest of it, you guys are watching me fumble through it and making crap up as I go. Another example of me making crap up as I go is I have always done the epoxy method of putting the mica onto my scales. This time I'm actually going to paint it on using an acrylic medium. I just got this at Walmart. I had to go run and get it because I didn't have any already when I decided I was going to do this. And then the acrylic medium is what I'm going to be putting my mica into, and mixing that up and painting it onto the scales. I'm going to pause so I can get my stuff together, and then I'll come back. Alright, so I pulled out one color, and I showed it to you a second ago, but I'm actually going to be using this one. The other one was blue to a violet, but I realized I wanted to go with a blue to a green mica, and since my eye has the greens and blues in it, I wanted to kind of have those colors coordinated. So this is Whip It from Wood's Goodies, and I like to say Woody's Goodies even though it's not how it's really pronounced, but it just matches it. Woody's Goodies, it sounds so like it's supposed to be that way. I'll put the link to this into the details to the video. So she'll send you these little handy dandy little spoons too. And there's another lady I order stuff from. She sends glitters in little containers instead of shakers, and she gives spoons like this, so you could do that also. But I've only used her glitter with the spoon once, and because I was afraid of using the spoon with the glitter, I've not done it that way before, and it was weird to me. So I went and grabbed a medicine cup because I have a whole stack of a couple hundred of them because they were really cheap. So I'm not really sure how much of this I need. I am guessing on how much mica to the acrylic medium I need. All of this, like I said, I've never done this before, so y'all are getting to learn on with me. I guess if I screw it up, you'll learn from my mistake. Don't do this. Usually it takes very little mica to cause anything, so this is a lot to me. I don't normally use that much when I use the epoxy method. So I'm actually not going to use all of it because that was just, woo. Isn't it so pretty on the spoon? I almost don't want to wash it off, except I have to so I don't mix colors on accident. So I have no idea what the consistency of this should look like. Nothing. I could be screwing this up and we don't know. But I think it looks fine. All I'm doing right now, because the cup is clear, is I'm looking at the outside of it and trying to make sure that if I have anything on the edges, that I'm pulling it off of the edges and getting it mixed in. Waste not, want not. I guess that's my philosophy in everything. As you guys have seen, I reuse my cups instead of throwing them away. I reuse my popsicle sticks. This one actually happens to be a fresh brand new cup and fresh brand new popsicle stick. You all must be losing your minds watching this video. But you got this one all messed up from, I think I used it for a dirty pour, something else, who knows. All right. I don't care if I go inside the lines, because I'm going to paint inside of here also. I'm just kind of seeing how this winds up looking. I don't know if I need to do more than one coat. I know nothing. We'll see as we go. So far, I'm still digging the epoxy method better. It gives you more satisfaction. It goes on there all at once. You see the pretties right up front. Now, something else I forgot to tell you I'm going to be doing, and I could have done it before I painted this on, but I guess it's neither here nor there, but I'm going to trim the top of this off so that it's even all the way around and no pokies and whatever going on. And I use this handy dandy doodad. My husband bought this for me. So the height of this, since it lays flat on the surface, I can work that. Because he saw me using my makeshift popsicle stick one and said, you know what, that electrical tape on there holding that in there is not safe. And I said, yeah, but it's what I got to do this with, so it's what I'm going to use. So he gave me an alternate solution. I still like my popsicle stick better. But he's right, it's not safe. So I'm painting down with the scales on purpose, thinking that that will give us a certain, you see how there's not paint underneath of it, but I think that might give depth to extra color depth on the scales. We'll see. I'm being very light with the paint. I'm going over it several times and basically almost drying it out as I go down. I figure if I do that, I'd kind of prevent the streaking. I don't know. Maybe it's my habit from doing Mod Podge underneath of glitter so that we don't get glitter lines. See, like right here, that's too thick to me. It's driving me nuts. It won't look like that when it's dry, but it still bothers me. almost done with the scales part. And I will be honest, there is no rhyme or reason for why I am doing the scales first and this part separate. There's no reason for me to go around this and the way I'm following the scales and not painting inside there. It's just, I'm weird. So if you want to just keep on going across, go right on ahead with your bad self. I have weird little isms. We all do. That happens to be one of mine. I did not seem to need quite as much as what I made. Then again, I am being really light, and then once I look at this, I may go over it again. Dirty on the other side. I can already see I am not a fan of painting this onto the flat surface because then I have the streaks of the brush. I don't want to see that. Oops, I'm gonna here a little bit. I'm not so sure how I feel about that portion of it. I'm trying to think of a different way to go about this. And what I'm kind of thinking right now is this is going to be in the center. And so what I may do is pull from the center of the cup and go radiate out with it, so that way the brush lines are at least going out with the eyeball. So I'm thinking this is what happens when I haven't done it before and I'm making stuff up as I go. Yeah, we don't want my curly hair. It might look stupid, it might not, who knows. But I have a whole lot of stuff left here. So, what I will do, because you guys know how I save everything, is I'm going to get a piece of saran wrap and use a rubber band to seal it on, and then no air can get into it, and then I can save this to use on a different cup a different day. And it will mostly not dry out, and I'll be able to use it. I don't like throwing stuff away, I don't like wasting supplies. So, I'm not sure how well you can see the shimmer of that on the camera, but the epoxy will actually make that pop even more. That's the good thing about that. And then we'll see how that turns out once it's dry. And so the next phase of this is going to be to put epoxy on it, because I do not want to put this or the rhinestones on this part of the cup. I'm going to put epoxy on, then do the rhinestones, and lay the eye down, and then I'm going to epoxy again. I'm also going to trim the edges. I may or may not remember to actually show you guys that I'm doing that when I'm doing it. So now it's time to wait for drying and see what happens with the next phase. Alright, I am going to be making the center of this eye glow in the dark. Because I'm a cheater, I went ahead and just used a little bit of what I had left in here and put it in here, and then I mixed in the Kona glow-in-the-dark mica from Woods Goodies, and I'm going to paint that into this, and I'm using this kind of as a point of reference so that my lines kind of go a little bit along with that. And I'm already discovering that this is way too smooth for my brush and everything. This is one of those adapt, improvise, and overcome things, because the paint is not wanting to stick to the vinyl. It doesn't have to be pretty on the vinyl, because the vinyl is going to be covered by the eye. But I do want it to be smooth, and that's where my problem is here, is I'm having not so smooth. Little pieces showing up, but I'm just going to keep on keeping on. See what happens. Let me see something real quick. Oops, sorry. I paused it while I went and turned the light off. My window is open here, but I was hoping, doing this in the dark. No, I've got it so this glows. If I hold it underneath of the desk, I can see it. But I was hoping if I could see how the glow looked, it would make me feel better about how the paint was going. But I don't have it dark enough to see the glow, unfortunately. So all I've done is made it dark for y'all. now that I'm doing it over and over and over again, I'm starting to actually like the way it's looking, because I think that the streaks and everything underneath of the eye will coincide with the streaks that are already kind of in the eye where it looks like it's bursting out. So I'm happy with the way this is going, and I am going to stop the video so you guys don't have to keep watching me do this over and over and over again. And hopefully this winds up looking okay once it's on the cup. I am getting ready to mix my epoxy. I am using a lot more than I have been on the other videos that I've been showing you. With Callista's, I only did 1 teaspoon of A and 1 of B, so making it 2 teaspoons total. Well, this time, what I normally do is I fill it up to this DSSP line if I'm using a little bit, and then I'll fill it up all the way to the 1 tablespoon line if I'm using a lot. And I'm actually going to use the DSSP, which is my usual for my first layer of cups. If I'm doing the glitter, where I'm not doing Mod Podge glitter, but I'm actually glittering the cup with the epoxy on it, then I'm only going to use the 2 teaspoons from the medicine cup. So this is, I guess, maybe 3 teaspoons total when I do this. Now I'm gonna hit this with my heat gun real quick, so it's going to be noisy. I need to do that because I have unclear part A. You can see it's kind of funky in there. It's because it's a little bit too cold for it, which I find ironic since I keep it fairly warm in this room. This is a new thing that I've had to do. I didn't have these little hard pieces in my part A before, but now I have to heat it and then stir it up to get those little chunks gone. Otherwise I wind up with uglies in my epoxy on my cups. Didn't do that until recently, and everything that I read on it said that it was because the temperature, but I'm having a feeling it's not so much the temperature, simply because, well, I live in Florida and I don't have really cold air conditioning because I hate cold. That it's the age of my epoxy, because I've had it for, I want to say 6 months now. It's kind of old for epoxy because I just don't use it fast enough. This is another one of those things where you're going to realize that I am not as particular as others who you probably see do videos on tumblers. Well, it seems I'm going with the tablespoon instead of the DSSP. Because I did a little too much of my part A. There we go. Now we're even. And I need to go grab another cup real quick because I forgot I used this one earlier. So you guys know how I reuse stuff over and over again. Well, this one I wouldn't reuse normally, but I actually filled it up earlier, and so the epoxy is not hard in here yet, which means if I try to use that one now, it'll wind up being full of chunks because the stuff on the side will come off into the epoxy. So yes, I do reuse stuff, but at the same time I have to be smart about it and not contaminate my stuff. So because I used this in the part A, I'm not going to put it into the part B. I'm just going to pour that one. The part B is thinner anyways, but if I put this same stick into the part B, it's going to adhere to the sides of the B, and then it's going to make my measurements all funky. So you'll see some people sit here and go real slow. I'm not that person. I don't care if there's bubbles in it. I'm just going. I want to get it stirred. I'm not trying to be all dainty with it. I don't care about perfection when it comes to this. I just want it done. So it gets all cloudy and everything, and then you just keep stirring it until it's not cloudy anymore. And I guess by the way I'm doing it, it's a little difficult to tell if it's cloudy or not because there's bubbles in it, but really it's already pretty much mixed. I don't have to spend 5 whole minutes stirring and stirring and stirring, where a lot of people will sit there and do it. I actually saw somebody was selling epoxy stirrers. I was just kind of thinking, why on earth? But then again, if you're particular about it and you're going to take the time to do all of the 5 minutes worth of stirring, or I guess if you're going to let it rest in warm bath water, and if you can do that while stirring on the machine, great, but I don't have the patience for that. I just use the top of a, you know, those disposable trays for when you bring something to somebody's house or something for the holidays. Well, I just use that lid to kind of protect my tumbler. So I am epoxying over the entire thing, so I don't have any tape up at the top or anything like that. I'm just going all the way up to the top and the bottom. Try to catch everything that's going to go over the edge to prevent drips. Definitely a completely different look on these scales with me painting it versus doing the epoxy with the mica in it. The texture of the scales actually shows more. I use textured paper anyways. It's not flat, so it's a completely different look versus this one. It looks all smooth. Now minus where I have sanded it down, but you don't see the texture of the paper on this one at all. And this one you do see the texture of the paper, so I think this is actually going to be another preferred method for me, just simply because I can see more definition, which I think makes the scales look more three-dimensional, I guess. I just like the way it looks better. Ooh, it's really purple from this angle. Looking straight up and down at it, it just looks like it's blue. And this was supposed to go from blue to green, not blue to purple. And it does look greener up, like blue-green straight on. So, that's interesting. think I have covered all of it. And there appears to be no bubbles. So I don't need to hit it with the heat gun. Oh, there's this spot. I'm checking to make sure I don't have any dry spots. Complete coverage. Up here that my paper is flipped up a little bit there, that's kind of bothering me. But I can sand that down once the epoxy is dry. Actually, I'm seeing a few little bubbles. I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the heat gun just for CYA purposes. Actually, I'm glad I did that, because until I actually started hitting it with the heat gun, I didn't even pay attention to how many bubbles I had going along on this rim. I still do have some micro bubbles, but I'm sure they'll work themselves out. So, yep. That's pretty much all I'm doing right now. I already have the eye ready for when this is done, and I have the rhinestones sitting out, so once this is ready to go, then I'll do the next phase.